Hey y'all, Mike with Cardboard Kingdom. Welcome back to another Disney Lorcana market update video. Today is the 14th of January. Happy Tuesday. Hope you all are doing well. Exciting weekend. We had the NA Championships. Congrats to Ed for winning that. That was really, really cool to see. Pretty popular color with Ruby Amethyst, but he was the only one to get into the top 8 with it, maybe even the top 16, and he took down the entire tournament. Very unique build. No Mauis, no Elsa, no Genies. Just did his own take, and at the end of the day, he took down the whole tournament. So kudos to him and shout out to him. And he kind of proved a really good point here with this win of like, you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. If you can predict the metagame a little bit and come with your own build, your own style, you don't have to have a $400 deck or an $800 deck or anything like that. You can straight up build a deck how you want it. I think his deck was about $150 and take down some of the best players in the world with it. And so shout out to him. Kudos to him for that amazing run. And he has been rewarded with another Golden Mickey. Obviously the World's Invite, which he already had. So now he's got multiple Golden Mickeys. He's got the Baymax trophy card. He's got the playset of Azurite Sea. He's got the Cusco, Elsa's Ice Palace. He's got all the trophy cards from the original DLC. Ed's just rolling in it, man. And Zan Syed, who this was his third like top 8, I think. So he's got 3 Golden Mickeys. He's got all the various trophy cards. That guy's probably, I don't know if he keeps his cards or not, or if he sells them. But my lord, his collection is that's crazy. I definitely had FOMO. I'm getting to a point where I might even want to attend a DLC. Now that's want one hand and want the other. In my situation with the 3 kids and the wife, everything, that would be an entire production. So definitely nothing in the short term in terms of attending a DLC. But I'm definitely starting to get the itch. Very excited for said champs. And yeah, just playing the game has been a ton of fun lately. And I think that it's just the Ravensburg made a great game. And at the end of the day, when you're talking about like these collectibles or anything like that, like it has to have the underlying fundamentals, and it definitely does. It's got all the things we've talked about with the IP, core characters, a great game that's fun. It's easy to learn. You can play with your family. Like I just it's just as obvious as it's ever been to me. And I have so many goals that I want to collect. I hope we keep this pace up of just kind of like slow and steady, right? Cards obviously went wild a lot in 2024, especially early 2024. We saw them come back down, and now they've kind of just been like steady, like slowly going up, kind of staying just flat. And I honestly just selfishly hope that trend continues for a while, because I'm not a seller in this market at all. I'm continuing to buy. If you go to my eBay store, like I'm selling Pokemon like crazy. I kind of am just offloading all my Pokemon to continue to collect Lorcana. And speaking of which, just if anyone's in the market for some vintage Pokemon, I have a BGS 9.5 Gem Mint First Edition Dark Charizard, which is an equivalent to a PSA 10 that'll be going to auction this Thursday on my eBay store. I also have some other vintage PSA 10s that are going to be going, and maybe even some modern PSA 10s, if I'm not mistaken. But I've got like 10 or so cards going to auction this Thursday, if anyone's in the market for some vintage Pokemon. But I'm trying to build my capital position back up after buying the D23 Elsa, right? Obviously a very expensive purchase, and I want to be in a position. I've had a couple people inquire about possible collection buyouts. I want to be in a position to do that, and then I also want to be in a position to get some of these trophy cards that are now out of circulation, if you will. And so I've got a lot of goals that I want to complete in the meantime, and need some capital to do so. So a lot of the vintage Pokemon is hitting the market. And that also, in terms of like where the market's at and stability, like I am so glad that Lorcana is taking longer than maybe I expected to kind of see rapid growth. With where Pokemon's at right now, like I was talking to a buddy last night who he plays Lorcana, but he's much more from a collector's point of view. He's much more intrigued by Pokemon, and he collects Pokemon. He's collected Pokemon forever. And like we are talking about like the new Journeys Together box on the Pokemon side of things, it's a set that has been announced. I don't even think we know any cards for it yet, and it's pre-selling on eBay for $250. Like that's absolutely insane. That's not healthy. That is like the people who are buying these sets, whether it's Prismatic Evolutions at $20 a pack, Journeys Together at $250 a booster box, Surging Sparks at $250 a booster box. Like these people are gonna get way overextended. The market is not gonna last. completely unhealthy. And I mean, look, there's a large demand for Pokemon right now, but a lot of that is not organic. A lot of that is just scalpers, and I just feel bad for the people that are getting into Pokemon right now, and it makes me grateful for what we have in Lorcana. So transitioning to Lorcana, I wanted to show off this post that I saw on Reddit here that I've been showing the whole time I've been talking, but a complete PSA 10 set of the first chapter was posted on Reddit, which is really, really cool to see. Obviously, anytime you see all of the first chapter come together in a PSA 10 format, just a gorgeous display of artwork. I remain steadfast that I think these cards are the best cards in terms of like trading cards and like aesthetics, collectability. Like the Enchanteds and the Lorcana are just a step above everything else. And they just look tremendous. So shout out to the poster who posted this. They also had a complete Rise of the Floodborn. There's my favorite card. In a PSA 10, so set 1 and set 2 full PSA 10 posted on Reddit, which was really, really fun. Obviously, set 1 I think is very, very far superior in terms of just overall artwork, but obviously there are some hitters in Rise of the Floodborn, Cindy being one, Snow White being one, and Alice being one. I personally love the Beast art. I think that it looks very good, and even the Arthur art, right? Like not maybe as iconic as a character, but I think the artwork is fantastic. My least favorite art in this set is probably Pete, and then followed by Sisu. I don't think the Sisu card, it doesn't appeal to me that much. I do like, I think a sleeper is the Hercules and the Namari. Like Namari, I think it might even be cheaper than the Pete now, but I just think the big cat and I think the art is really cool, and Hercules is a stud as well. So thank you for sharing those posts. And then last but not least, they have some Ursula's Return, they have some Into the Inklings, and they have some additional favorites of mine. They have another Stitch Carefree Surfer, and 2 prize card Stitch trophy cards, and even in a long Cape Zeus. So this is one that, some of these cards are so playable. Getting them graded is kind of counterintuitive, but if it's a card you like, obviously adding it to your collection, I'm all for it. So they've got just an awesome collection here. Obviously, I remain steadfast in my love for the Rockstar Stitch card. I think that card is going to do very well over time. They said wanted to share my recent Lorcana accomplishment. Been collecting with my kid over the holidays. We completed our first chapter in Rise of the Floodborn Enchanted PSA 10 collection. I never thought we'd collect all the enchantments from the first 2 sets, but we were pretty lucky with the first chapter, pulling 6 out of 12. Congrats, and even luckier when they came back as PSA 10s. Hopefully, Lorcana will continue to do well and put a nice dent in my kids' future education costs. Kids' college funds, he called it. I think Lorcana is going to continue to do well, and I think you've got a good set of cards there. Very nice. Moving over to some exciting sales. So there's been a lot of D23 2022 cards that have been going to auction here as of late. And we've had some really, really cool sales. So starting off with the Elsa on January 12th, so just 2 days ago, auction finished at 7,700. But a couple days before that, we had another one get auctioned at 7,750 is where it finished on January 7th. And then we had one finish on January 6th, the day before, finish at 8,100. So, roughly we'll say average sale around 7,900, 8K all in for the G23 2022 Elsa, which is I think it's a very strong price. I think you're going to continue to see this uptick to closer to 10K throughout 2025 and continue to trend up from there. This is a card that it's, got like a 60-ish% gem mint rate, maybe 65. There's only 900 available in the world. If the gem mint rate continues, we're going to be looking at a total pop of around 600. And there's a good chance that maybe some of those, I would doubt it ever gets to 600. I think it'll probably be somewhere around 500, in between 500 and 600. A final all-in PSA 10 count. But overall, some pretty strong sales here. A card that has continued to see growth throughout the year, and right now it's continuing to kind of trend up and to the right. I think lowest by it now, last time I looked, was around 9K. And then there's other than that, like one listing I think goes up to 15K. So a card that has continued to do well this year. Some other interesting auctions here, guys. We had D23 Expo Mickey Mouse. So this is the one that was not included in the original box set. This is the one that is more readily available than the other 6 that you're going to see here that went to auction. We had a PSA 10 copy go for 1,875, and then a day later we had one go for 2,075. So a lot of buy pressure on this card. Obviously, the first Mickey, first edition Mickey, iconic IP. It's going to be a card that's going to be very great from a collectability standpoint moving forward. And then as you start to look at the rest of the cards in the box set, Captain Hook is kind of the lowest right now at 1,876. Most of the other cards are selling for over 2,000 that are coming from the box set. We had the Maleficent Monstrous Dragon at 2,328. You have Stitch at closing in at almost 3K. Now we did have a Stitch go for 2,500, which was just a few days later, which is kind of crazy to see such a drop off. We're talking, 4 or 5 days later, and it dropped by about $500. That was kind of crazy. But then, you look at your Robin Hood, another one that's pretty low. You got a PSA 10 one finishing at Prostein for 1,675. Curlo de Vil at over 2,000 at 2,300. So some pretty consistent sales for the PSA 10 D23 copies. I think these cards are going to be a good foundation for the market moving forward in terms of collectability. I think these constantly changing hands means that there's a lot of buyers of these cards at kind of this all-time high rate, give or take all-time highs. It's right in line with kind of all-time highs for a lot of these cards. Elsa obviously selling for 8,500 back at the end of December, kind of setting a new all-time high, and then you have 3 sales come in right behind it that are in a very similar price range. You had one sale at some point. I'm not going to look too hard for it at 15K for the Elsa. I do believe that sale to be fake, but you look back here, even November 17th, a sale at 7,000 that had 115 bids. So we've continued to tick up and up and up as we've continued to get into late 2024, 2025 here. I fully expect that trend to continue, and these are cards that are absolutely on my buy list in terms of long-term goals, cards that I need to complete my collection goals. A lot of these D23 2022 cards remain uncollected for me, and so cards that I need to get my hands on. Obviously, had to go out and get the Elsa. That's a big dent in the in the wallet, and so now we're moving on to some of the other cards. But there's just so much that I want to collect inside Lorcana, goals that I want to finish, and so obviously 3 young kids don't have unlimited money around here. You have to kind of prioritize and figure out what's gonna maybe go up the quickest so you can get it now, so then you can kind of move throughout this market the right way to get as many cards as possible, because I'm absolutely still in acquisition phase. Nothing has changed on my side of things. I think the only Lorcana cards I've listed on eBay are like incredibly overpriced, so it's kind of like they're for sale but not really. But there's a lot of Pokemon for sale. If you're in the market for any Pokemon, let me know. I'm selling it all. So with that being said, obviously off the back of the NA championships, you always have some cards that become more meta defining than others, and it starts to shift the price quite a bit. A couple cards that are seeing more movement than others. If you go to Urso's Return, we're starting to see some movement here, and it's worth noting as we get into some of these set cards, the expected value, as you would kind of expect of the expected value on the back of these tournaments, you start to see an uptick across the board. Kind of, that raising tide raises all ships. Prices are kind of going up everywhere, just a few cents, a few dollars, etc. across all the sets. So by and large, they're up a couple bucks across the board. Some definitely still doing far better than others. But sets like Ursa's Return, any bump in cards gives it quite a bit of a big expected value bump, because the expected value is so low. And so when you look at a card like Sisu Empowered Sibling, the enchanted version of this card, down to 8 listings, which when you look at all the other enchantments from the set, even Diablo down, it's at 18. You have some at 25, 38, 31, 48, 24, 50. So there are a lot of these have quite a bit of quantity available. This is one that has seen some movement recently, and an uptick in price at 170 is the lowest on the market. This is a card that's going for 130, 140. I think even a few months ago it might have gotten under 100. But this is one that's kind of seen some constant uptick and had some sales after the North America Championships this weekend. So Sisu Empowered Sibling, I think, is in a great spot to sell if you have one. There's still plenty of Ursa's Return out there. There's still going to be a major influx of these cards throughout time in terms of more Sisus hitting the market. And so if you've got a raw copy and you maybe have some collection goals in Chapter 1 or your D23 stuff or whatever, whatever you're looking to collect, promos, etc., I think 170 is a great sale price for this card. And so if I had a raw one, I would probably get rid of it, to be honest. I do not, so I can't, but just saying I would. Moving over to the legendary of this card, 27 listings for the legendary for Sisu Empowered Sibling, Diablo has over 150 available at 160 listings on the market. So stark difference there. People holding on to their Sisus, getting rid of their Diablos, and the lowest on the market right now is about, what is that, $27. If you're looking for a verified seller, you're staring at a $28 legendary here. Versus return, obviously graph significantly up and to the right. Tons of sales volume the last couple days, and your cold foil is, it looks like, at $29 for the most recent sales. I would say definitely go with the cold foil here if you can get it. 39, so it has ticked up quite a bit here. Obviously the most recent sales at 29, now 39 is the lowest on the market. So you're looking at it basically a $40 cold foil, or if you go and get the normal, you're looking at 26, 27, 28. So a card that's seeing a lot of movement, and there's quite a few of these off the back of the NA championships. Once again, from a obviously we talk about the collector's point of view here and talk about that a lot. You're not going to, these tournament cyclists aren't going to impact us very much unless cards like Sisu have an enchanted variant, and then you're going to see people wanting to get those into their decks, and so that's why you'll see an enchanted like Sisu dry up, go down to 8 listings. It performed very well at this tournament. The meta is very aggro right now, and for my collectors out there that don't play the game, a lot of characters have very low stats, but they quest for a lot, which is ultimately how you win the game. A card like Sisu is a great counter to that, and so people are including more of these in their decks to counter the current meta, which is very aggro and very kind of low glimmer statted characters to just try and quest very high. And so that is what we're looking at in terms of some of these collector like side of things moving. If a card does well in the meta and it has an enchanted variant, that's where, like, I sold the Tiana card most recently, my first ever raw enchanted sell. I sold it for like 165 or something like that. It was a card that I thought was going to go down. Honestly, I haven't even looked at it. But that's like when there's cards like that are, I feel like, are overpriced. It's down to 112 now, and once again I sold it for like 165 a month ago. So when there's cards like this that I'll probably collect this card down the future, but I have so much time to get a current set enchanted like Tiana. I would much rather go get some of the D23 stuff or whatever. As I'm trying to build my collection and complete these goals, I'm looking at what can I get right now that in 3 years from now is going to be much harder to obtain. Right now that would be D23 stuff, that'd be trophy cards, that'd be specific promo cards. It's not a Tiana set 6 enchanted. I'm gonna have a lot of time to get this card, and so I'm trying to prioritize my spending and my purchasing on cards that are going to be harder to obtain as I look at this through a long-term trajectory. And so right now I'm trying to go back and get some of those older cards, a little bit more scarce, have a little bit more provenance, have the first edition stamp. These are cards that I think are going to appreciate faster than set cards like Tiana, and so I'm fine with selling a raw copy to go and get that, while I have a lot of graded cards that I don't have for sale. I have a lot of inventory that I don't have for sale, even raw enchanteds. But there are some enchanteds I think you just kind of have to pick your spots that make sense to sale. Obviously, Tiana for 165 is one that made a lot of sense to me, and then moving over to the Sisu empowered sibling right now, one that, in terms of the enchanted version, makes a lot of sense for me to sell. You can see it on the first page here, up at 170. I think that's a good sell price for it. So, with that being said, guys, there's obviously a lot of other cards that have seen significant upticks as of late. If you're a collector and you've got some of these cards, I think it's a good time to sell. Strength of the Raging Fire would be one. Lowest verified on the market is $12. A card that's seen a ton of volume on the back of the current meta. Obviously, aggro, it leads to more characters on the board. This is a card that does damage based on your amount of characters on the board, and so you can kind of see why it makes sense in the meta, and you can see the sales volume here, 72, 75, 82, 70, 79, etc. And so this is a card it's obviously seeing a pretty drastic uptick in price here. I would feel very fine about with getting rid of a few copies, which I actually do have a few copies that I had forgotten about that I'm probably gonna list to get rid of. I have a playset. This isn't a card that like I'm looking to collect into the future. I had a rare from set 2. Isn't anything that I'm looking in terms of like collection goals to have extras of. Obviously there's a thought that it could continue to go higher, right? And so obviously obviously time the market to the best of your ability, I'd be completely fine with getting rid of a rare for $12. And I think cold foils are over $20 now. So $21 for a cold foil, definitely another one once again that I would be fine with getting rid of. I know a lot of you guys prefer to hold on to your cold foils and you think that they're going to continue to go up. They very well might. I personally would be fine with getting rid of a Strength of the Raging Fire for $21 for a cold foil. So that's just my own personal opinion. Do what's best for you, but that's where we're at right now. So with that being said, guys, that is going to be the end of today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate all of the support. I'm very, very excited for 2025 to continue to grow my collection, hit these goals, share that with you guys. I've got a couple really cool goals that I'm working on right now, but I've had to slow my pace off the back of that Elsa purchase because it was just a lot of capital, right? And so we're trying to sell some Pokemon and get creative with what we want to piece out to build that capital position back up. We've got a couple collection buys possibly coming here in the near term, and we need to be positioned well for that as well. So with that being said, that is going to be the end of today's video. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate all of you, and we will be back with another video soon. Goodbye.